All righty, talk show time again. Hello, good morning if you're hearing this on the radio, and good whatever time of day it is if you're listening to it on a delay online. I'm J.R. Lewis, and this is the Town Meeting Talk Show on KLAM for Friday, May the 8th. And we're brought to you by Cordova Wireless Communications, your local cell phone provider that provides your local talk show. And their consistent investment in what we do is in many ways responsible for all of what we do, not just this show, but operations in general. And a big thanks, by the way, also to all of the advertisers that have stayed with us, that are letting us help out, explaining how you're doing business differently. The fact that you're still open or doing curbside and just hanging in there. And this, of course, is a significant day with the reopening process beginning for Cordova. If you'll recall, the city, because of the nature of our fishing industry, lots of people coming in. If you got too many irons in the fire, it can be tough if we had some kind of an outbreak to know where it was coming from. So they wanted to be a little more gradual at the city level. And so while the many places in the state have been at this phase one opening level, Cordova elected to lag behind that on advice of our medical people. That time, though, has come to an end. And we are now entering phase one. And it is very appropriate that our guest would be Cathy Renfeldt of the Cordova Chamber of Commerce. We're very much looking forward to bringing you that conversation. She and I just taped our part of it, and we're going to bring that to you. I wanted to start off quickly here by sharing the news release that came out May 7th, that was yesterday, and it said City Council votes unanimously 7-0 to approve the resolution during its special meeting. It included what they call the Safe Cordova Roadmap to Reopening Cordova that was created by our incident management team and medical team, as well as input from the business community. The document used to safely determine how to reopen the city in two phases, the red status being the most restrictive with limitation on movement and closure of non-essential businesses and the strictest health requirements. That's what we've been operating under up to now. The medical team, though, has determined that Cordova, even with that positive case identified with the cannery worker, and it's still just the one as of the time of this recording, the medical team has determined Cordova can safely progress to yellow status at this time and recommend opening of local businesses following the rules of State of Alaska Health Mandate 16, the Reopen Alaska Responsibly Plan, Phase 1. Now, again, that's a real important distinction because also today, a significant part of Alaska is moving on to the governor's phase 2. Cordova is not doing that. Cordova is staying at phase 1 until further notice. So if you're watching statewide news, you're watching KTUU, KTVA, whatever, and you hear, the governor has said bars can open, and the governor has said gymnasiums can open, and bowling alleys, and a bunch of this other stuff, and that restaurants can be at 50% capacity and all that, that's not us. Cordova's opening at the phase 1 protocol. So it's real important if any business or any customer is trying to look up this data to see what businesses are allowed to do and what for a customer, what's available to a customer to do. If you go to the state site actually right now, all of the attachments have been updated for phase 2. So the state site is not a great asset for Cordovans right now to figure out what kinds of businesses can be open and at what capacity and with what rules. Now, when I realized that last night, I frantically called everybody that I could think of and say, hey, the state's going to phase 2. We're still at phase 1. And, so we were all, and what I did to try and make this easier for you, for those of you who listen to us, is I combined the most current city emergency order with the portions of the state order that apply to Cordova. In other words, all the phase 1 stuff that is not front and center on the state website anymore, but those are the documents that are relevant to us. And you can find that by going to CordovaRadio.com, and you'll be able to download a packet that has, again, the most current Cordova emergency order, and with regard to the businesses, it has the right version of the state mandate and the older versions of the attachments, where you'll see a lot of references to 25% and reservations only at restaurants and reservations only at salons and gatherings of 20. See, that's another one. The state has put out a rule about gatherings of people up to 50 now. Cordova is not doing that, though. Our gathering number is still 20. And again, our rules for bars are different than the state and all of that. So if you want to see what we've compiled for you that has all the pertinent documents for Cordova, you can go to CordovaRadio.com, and it's right there front and center up at the top of the page, a link for you to download that packet. And then again, just for businesses and customers, remember that as Cordova non-essential businesses begin to reopen, we are at the state's phase 1. Anything you see that talks about phase 2 doesn't apply to us yet. We got to wait it out and see how things go. Phase 1, which, by the way, is what all of us in business, anybody that's in business that has been closed and has been getting ready to reopen, reopening to the phase 1 level is what you've been doing up to now. So basically, if you're a business owner that's reopening today, just don't change anything you've been planning for. Anything you hear at the state level that says it's all expanded now, just ignore that. Continue to operate at the level you have been planning for over the last week or so. Don't expand beyond that, and you should be just fine. And if you have any questions, again, our document will help to put everything in context. So you can go download that at CordovaRadio.com if you want. Sorry for the long preamble. Let's get to the meat of this now. We're going to talk with Cathy Renfeldt, the Executive Director of the Cordova Chamber of Commerce, on this day where some of our businesses that have had to be closed don't have to be anymore. And we're going to find out just how powerful an asset our current Chamber of Commerce is. So please enjoy this conversation up next for you on the Town Meeting Talk Show. Cathy Renfeldt, nice to be speaking with you. You and I have communicated, back from your CTC days. We've done interviews about Chamber. We've talked when you were the PIO of this incident, so you're no stranger to our airwaves. Very nice to have you with us. How are you holding up in the middle of all of this?
Thanks, JR. No, it's good. It's good to be back focused on Chamber stuff and really trying to be there for these businesses and the community as we move through all these next phases. Yeah, well, and this is the Chamber has come a long way under your leadership. I continue to be impressed by that, and glad to have you in that position. As we are now in this phase where, as people are hearing this, the reopening of some of the non-essential businesses is already underway. What's your general sense of the business community? Have they been pretty eager to get to this point, or have they tended to err more on the side of caution? You interact with more businesses than just about anybody, maybe other than city officials. So what's your take? Well, my take is that, like almost every other issue in Cordova ever, it's about 50-50. There are plenty of businesses that are ready to reopen. They have very strong plans in place that they think are going to keep them safe and keep their customers safe and keep the community safe. And they feel like they, have small enough operations that they can easily control the flow and the protocols and everything that needs to happen to keep everyone safe. Mm-hmm. And, then there's some businesses who maybe they are run by somebody who is vulnerable themselves or has somebody who's vulnerable at home, or they just don't feel comfortable reopening yet. And so those businesses aren't going to reopen yet. Sure. And that's the beauty of this system is that nobody's forcing anyone to do anything.
Right.
We're just trying to open it up and level the playing field so that not only, certain quote unquote essential businesses can run, but that these other businesses who feel that their work is important as well and who have clients and customers who have been waiting anxiously to get their products and services can now do so.
Good. Well, and I mean, that's it. It is a good balance, and it is nice to have. It is nice to have those choices. So let's get into how the chamber, as an umbrella organization for businesses, is kind of looking at this. What are you focusing on as this reopening process begins very gradually?
Well, we've been kind of looking at this in a broad way from the beginning. We are here as the voice of the business community, but we're also here as an organization for the community as a whole to try to promote a high quality of life for the community, to try to act as a resource hub, an information hub of channels of information and sources of information. So we've been working throughout this process in several ways to try to make sure that not only businesses, but the community at large is able to access the information that they need. And as I was working as the PIO, it was nice to be able to coordinate closely with the IMT on that, and we continue to do so. One piece of information that we created a while back, we've been working diligently to keep up to date, is the COVID biz list. That's what we call it. It's a comprehensive list of businesses in Cordova that it gives their status, whether they're opened or closed or only open to appointments, or if they're only open for online sales. And then it also talks about their accommodations that they're making for folks that are in quarantine or folks that are vulnerable, if they're offering delivery or pickup. And it talks about what they are asking of their customers. So if there are certain businesses that are saying, if you're coming into the store, you have to wear a face mask and gloves, or if you're coming into the store, you have to wash your hands right away. That's the kind of information that we want to share with people as well, so that there's two-way communication between the businesses and their customers.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I've been pushing that a lot here recently too. That when it comes to looking at all of the state mandates and the local mandates, that it really is I think would be good for the customers to look at that as well, so they know what to expect. So you don't go to a business, say, that is requiring the use of masks, which really any business that open should be doing according to the city rules. But be that as it may, if a business wants to make masking mandatory and you show up and you don't have one, I mean, we've seen examples in the state and around the country where people are losing their minds over this. They're like, "What were you? I'm an American. You can't make me wear a mask." And so, when expectations aren't aligned, it kind of can get people bent out of shape. And the other thing we don't want to see too is for customers to be inadvertently pressuring any of our businesses to do something that they shouldn't. Like, "Oh, come on, can't you make an exception for me? I mean, it's me. Do I really need to wear a mask? Do I really need to have a reservation?" And of course, if a business is tempted to cave to that, and there ends up being a situation where that creates a positive case or a hit in contact tracing or something that gets them in a lot of trouble and potentially shuts everything down. So you seem to be a big believer in that too, then, that it's really good for the customers to know as well as the business owners what's expected.
Absolutely, and I think that those expectations can be managed pretty easily through communication. We try to offer several types of communication tools to businesses. We have that COVID biz list, which is something that we work with the city's incident management team and the ambassadors at the airport. That goes out to everyone that lands in the plane, so that people who are new to town, who haven't been here as this whole thing has been progressing, so maybe they're not quite up to speed, can have a good idea of and a good resource to go to find out what they need to do, where they can get it, and what can be done where. And there are certain businesses that are offering things that they didn't in the past, just for COVID. Like Joe, who runs Cordova Taxi, he's actually delivering groceries for people right now. Becky, who runs Chinook Auto Rental, she'll actually not only get your car rental ready, but she'll actually go to the grocery store, pick up your grocery order, have it in the car waiting for you when you land. So those kind of things are good for people to know as well.
Okay, and all of the assets that we're talking about here while you and I are talking are available at CordovaChamber.com. So, people can use that as an asset to find anything you're talking about, like this list of the businesses, who's open, who's not, what they're doing, what they've changed, all of those details that people have shared with you have on this list.
Yep, so that's going to be at CordovaChamber.com/COVID-19. And on that page, there is also a good list of relief resources for businesses. There's through the CARES Act that was put forth through the White House earlier, and then through some state-run programs as well. There's SBA relief programs. There's some private grants that are out there for certain businesses. There is, even our city is offering, and certain local businesses are offering like deferment of payments and, some leniency in payments as well for businesses. I mean, and then just some suggestions on other things you can do, like calling your credit card company and asking about what options are for deferred payment or for advances if you're kind of in a situation where you need more cash flow. And that's primarily for businesses, but it's a good resource for everyone to kind of be aware of. And there are several people out there who, may not have brick and mortar places. They may operate a business from home and may not think of themselves as a business owner necessarily, but they may qualify for some of these programs as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, then another asset that you've got is also links to the mutual aid agreements, which anybody conducting business during the pandemic is supposed to have one of those on file, regardless of the size of the business, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then and then some of the larger businesses have to have protective measures and policies. And you've got a template for that on the site so they don't have to reinvent the wheel to complete that documentation?
Right. And the template that we have on our website is a generalized template. And with the City Council approving on Wednesday the Reopen Cordova Responsibly plan and moving us to the yellow light status today at 8 a.m., I actually reached out to businesses that were affected last night, and if you were somebody who was affected by that order, you probably received an email from me last night that has some specific breakdown of the protocols that are going to be expected of you in order to reopen from the state of Alaska, a template that is specialized to your business type for reopening for those protective measures, a packet of that, ready to go for that mutual aid agreement so that you can just fill it out, sign it, send it right in, directions on how to do that, and some information about our Rebuilding and Recovery campaign and our ribbon tyings and some of the other free services that we're offering to businesses that are ready to join the comeback.
Yeah, well, and like you said, there are at least some very excited to do that. So what are some other, here on this day of reopening, what are some other particular assets that the Chamber is offering that you want people to know about, not only to make it easier, but to help everybody follow the rules, keep the number of cases to a minimum, so we hopefully don't ever get to the point that we have to go back from our yellow status to our red status, for example. What are some more things that the Chamber's offering?
Well, we are starting a new rebuilding and recovery campaign that I just mentioned, and we're calling it Come Back Better. And within that campaign, there's a few different tools that we've created. And the first one we call Rethink. And the idea of rethinking is that as we're talking about businesses and how we're operating, it's not business as usual. It's a new normal. Yeah. And we want to encourage resilience through innovation. We want to help businesses kind of wrap their mind around the situation in kind of a broader scale, longer term way, because this is probably going to continue for quite a few more months in some way, shape, or form for the country. I've been doing research on what our events going to look like a year from now, and they're still going to look quite different than they used to look. Not to say that larger events like the kind that the Chamber would normally put on throughout the year are never going to happen again. They are, but they are going to look a little different for a while, and the same is true for businesses. So what we are encouraging businesses to do is ask a few questions of themselves and of their customers, and start thinking of your business maybe a little differently, so that you can adjust to what is needed in the current climate. So you may need engineering controls put in place in order to achieve the appropriate social distance between your customers. You may need sneeze guards put in place in order to protect your employees. You may need to look at rearranging your floor plan. You may need to think about accessibility options like drive-up windows, curbside pickup, delivery, phone or online ordering, scheduling, padding your schedule of appointments so that you can make sure that you don't have overlap between your customers if you're in certain industries. And of course, strict sanitation standards and hygiene schedules for your employees, and oftentimes for your customers as well. So some of the questions that you can be asking yourself as a business owner is, what do my customers need? And then also, how can I accommodate those needs safely? Are there new ways to communicate to my customers? Are there new ways to deliver my products or services? What engineering controls, like I said, need to be put in place for me to operate safely? What changes need to be made to my business in order to keep my customers and my employees and my community safe? And then, of course, what are the safety protocols and mitigation measures that are required for my business to operate now? Yeah. And as we go through different phases, that sort of information is going to be dictated by the state primarily, and possibly by the city in certain instances, like with face masks. Yeah. And our job as the Chamber, I think, is to make sure that information is communicated, understood, and make it easier for these businesses to do that. Because information is kind of the most important thing. And we want to be here as a resource for businesses to maybe talk through some of these ideas, to be able to maybe answer questions or help them get answers if they have questions. Okay,
so to kind of put a bow on the rethinking phase, I mean, there could be a business out there that's thinking, geez, I've been doing this for 20, 25, 30 plus years, and now, we have this pandemic, and this is it. I'm done. It's all over. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I kind of hear you saying, well, business owner, don't go down that road. Get in touch with us, because we can talk about options to help you maybe come up with a model that will be able to hopefully enable you to continue to be successful.
Exactly. It is easy to get down right now and to think about, worst case scenarios for you or your business or your family. And I would encourage you to stop and to call us and let's talk about it, because the last thing that we need and the last thing that we want is for any of our businesses to be lost because of something like this. we do have things that we can do. We do have some control over what we can do and what we can offer. And I think businesses need to remember that your customers do want to give you business, especially in Cordova. These are your friends and your neighbors, and they want to see you succeed too. And that's part of what we're doing as a chamber year-round, is trying to help people just to remember to give local businesses some time and some business, because these people in town, they do want to support you. We just need to get the information out to them on how they should be doing that. And that kind of brings me to the next part of the phase, actually, the next part of the campaign, which is rebuilding. So a lot of these businesses, as they've taken time off of their business, as they've had to shut down temporarily, their customers, the needs that their customers have, are either going unfulfilled or are being fulfilled in other ways. And if they are getting fulfilled in other ways, then it's going to take it could be good for the business to put some effort into reminding those customers that they're there, and reminding them that their business and their service and their whatever they're offering has value, and that they are back to provide these services and these products again. So they're going to be taking some time to kind of rebuild that customer base and rebuild that customer loyalty. And as they're doing that, we're going to be right alongside them doing some large-scale campaigns to help the whole community remember to kind of switch gears in their mind and give, focus back on these local businesses as the first option for fulfilling their needs. We do Shop Cordova First campaigns year-round, but we're going to be kind of stepping that up as we go into this part of the season where we're trying to help businesses rethink and reopen and rebuild. And we also need to remember that both businesses and customers are going to have to work a little harder to interact and to be together and to share the same space. So both parties are going to be having to remember every day the value of that. So that's what we're here to help them do.
Okay, so we talked about the rethinking component, the rebuilding component. Then we come to the reopening component. Yeah.
So once you're ready, you feel like you're ready to reopen, then we've kind of put together some steps that you can work through. And make sure that you've got everything taken care of. So the first step to reopening is to know the rules. So people need to make sure that they are familiar with the attachment of State Mandate 16 that is relative and speaks to their particular business type. So if they're a restaurant, then they're going to be listed under Attachment F. If they're a retail business that's non-essential, they're going to be Attachment E, personal services, Attachment G, and so on and so forth. And so I have provided for businesses and altogether in a clump on Facebook and to our email list some slides from the state of Alaska Health Commissioner Adam Crum of what these businesses are going to need to do. And so these slides are not all inclusive. They kind of give you just a basic idea of what what's going to be expected of you. And then there's also some specific attachments that I provide links for in these emails, and I'll put those up on the website as well. That gives people a closer understanding, a more thorough understanding of all the intricacies of hygiene and sanitation and open and closing and distance between customers and between staff. And each one of these business types is handled just a little bit differently.
Right.
So, and that's another thing for customers to remember too, is as you're going to visit these businesses, hopefully as you walk into the business, and maybe even before you enter the business, publicized by the business, will be their COVID safety plan. And that'll include the details on how their business is supposed to operate and how they are putting into effect these protocols that are required.
Right.
And so that's kind of the next step after knowing the rules is creating that plan. So we provided templates for these businesses And if you didn't get an email from me yesterday at the chamber, get in touch with me. You can send me an email directly to Executive Director at CordovaChamber.com, or an easier one is Cathy with the C at CordovaChamber.com.
Yeah.
Or you can call the chamber at 7260 and let us know that you'd like these materials and you want more information about reopening. But this plan, this template, it lays out for you what the expectations are, and then you should reference that against that attachment in Mandate 16. And that it's nice now that matches pretty much almost identically to the Cordova emergency order now, so that makes things a little easier for you. And then once you have that plan in place, you should submit it and post it. Now, the city is only requiring that businesses with 5 or more customers at a time create this plan, but for the state, in many instances, they're requiring all businesses have this posted. And even if it's not required, we're strongly encouraging businesses to create and post these plans for several reasons. And I'll get into that in just a second.
Okay. And I would point out again, too, that as people are looking at the state attachments, our businesses need to remember that the state is moving at a different pace. Cordova is deliberately staying behind the state's pace because of the unique nature of our situation with the influx of a whole bunch of people from outside the state, outside the country. They've decided, under the advice of our local doctors, to move a little bit more slowly. So anyone who's looking at, for example, Health Mandate 16 on a state website, if they try to look at one of the attachments that's on the state site right now, it's talking about the Phase 2 portion. And Cordova is remaining at Phase 1 until further notice. So actually, if you want to see the attachments that apply to Cordova, it's actually better to go to the chamber site. We have one on our site too at CordovaRadio.com that has the older attachments, the ones that apply. But everybody needs to, and I like that you keep reinforcing this, Cathy. Customers and businesses need to remember that right now it's all Phase 1 relative to the state plan. Phase 1, not Phase 2, like many other businesses around the state. We're still in Phase 1 until our local doctors and local lawmakers decide it's time to move on. And it sounds like you're very aware of that.
Yeah, and we've talked about that as well, and I'm really grateful that you're keeping up to date on that as well, and helping our community, keep the most accurate information in front of them at all times. It's very important. So as you go to get ready to implement that plan, you got to make sure that you're ready to implement it. So you can say as a business, like, we're going to have social distancing marked out in our checkout lane, just in case we have 2 people stacked up at a non-essential retail business. So you're going to have to mark out that line. Maybe you decide that you want to put up a sneeze guard. So, okay, that's something that we need to put up. And minimally, even if you don't do any of those things, you are going to have more sanitation and disinfecting and hygiene standards than you normally would have had. So maybe you need to put out hand sanitizer, and minimally you're going to need to train your staff on the new schedule of cleaning and disinfecting certain parts of your store. And maybe you want to create an actual schedule for that needs to be initialed on the hour or every 4 hours or whatever is required for your business by your staff, and you need to train your staff on how to do that. Maybe you need to make sure that you have enough hand sanitizer, or you have enough disinfectant soap, or you have enough cleaning solution, or you have, some masks for your staff to wear, or you need to make sure your staff have masks. So making sure you have the supplies and the materials and the controls in place before you reopen is really important. And so if you're not ready today, don't reopen today. Wait until you've got the things in place that need to be there to keep everyone safe. And then once you've got all that in place, now you're ready to get the information out to your customers and to the community, ready to market your plan. Even if some people are anxious for you to reopen your business, others are going to remain nervous and cautious. Maybe they're vulnerable themselves, or maybe they live with somebody who is, or maybe they're just someone who cares a lot and is concerned. And so the more safety and mitigation measures that you have in place, the better. And it's going to behoove you to bend towards the cautious on your measures in order to be able to service the highest percentage of people in Cordova and make the most amount of people feel safe. Because even people who are gung-ho are not going to be at their normal level of gung-ho. It's just a time where everybody is and should be feeling cautious. So once you've got that plan in place, you've put all this time into making this plan, and you've gone through all this work. I mean, what good is that if no one knows about it? So put that out there for your customers to see. We would recommend that you send that to the chamber so that we can help get the word out, that you put it on your social media, that you put it on your website, that if you have an email list, send it out to your email list, announce the fact that you're reopening, and that this is how it's going to look. And then once you put that out there, the chamber will signal boost you and get that message out to even more people. And we could even do more marketing for you as well, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, you're ready to reopen. So as you're ready to reopen, we suggest that you always keep in the back of your mind that things could change. So you really need to be nimble as a business and need to respect the process, because our leaders are constantly having to adjust and evaluate as the current environment changes. And they're constantly looking at what the state is doing and what our fishing community is doing, and what they know about our healthcare capacity and about our first responder capacity and about tests that are being administered and what the capacity is there. And all of those things are going to come into play, as well as positive case count, when they determine what stage we are in reopening. And it's possible that there might be times where we have to step back into red for a little bit and have to maybe close for a little bit. So make sure that those channels of communication are open with your customers, and that your customers know when you're making reservations, yep, I've got you down for this date, and if anything changes, I'll let you know. Yeah. So just respecting the process, and the businesses that are going to be the most nimble and the fastest to adjust and cooperate are going to be the most successful with reopening.
Good. Okay, well, really good guidelines. Again, we're visiting with Cathy Renfeldt from she's the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce. She was one of the city public information officers for a while, but recognizing that things were moving closer to where the businesses were really going to need the chamber to be at 100%, she has returned to focusing on that full-time. We've been talking about rethinking, rebuilding, and reopening. And now you have this section about recovering. What's involved there?
Yeah. So with recovery, there's, as businesses move back towards this new normal, they need the support of their customers. They need the support of the community, and they need the support of larger entities as well. The chamber is here to support them. One thing that we're ready and willing to do is something called a ribbon tying. And this is kind of like a ribbon cutting, except, a lot of people have heard the term ribbon cutting. That's right, for when a business is having a grand opening. But what we're offering is something kind of adjacent to that, but a little bit different. It's called a ribbon tying. And so if you're a business who's ready to reopen and you're ready to get the word out about what you're doing, you should call us and let us know, okay, we're ready to come back. And what we'll do is we'll send you 2 pieces of ribbon and a sign that says that you're part of the comeback, and then you'll take a video of you and your staff tying those 2 pieces of ribbon back together, either inside your office or your place of business or on the outside. You'll send that to us or post it yourself, tagging us, and we'll share that, and then we'll come and cut it, and it'll be kind of a rebirth for your business. And that's a great way to kind of market that plan that we were talking about earlier. You have these safety measures in place that you've taken so much time and energy to put in place, and you need your customers to be aware of that, especially the parts that they need to actively participate in, whether that's wearing a mask or calling ahead or making sure they have an appointment or a reservation. So this is a great way to kind of be very front and center for businesses and customers to know. I know some businesses want to have a soft reopening, but I don't think that anybody's going to be flooded with business as
Sure.
these patrons are fairly cautious
Right.
still. So I think it's going to be a great way to kind of get the word out. So that's one thing we're doing. And then we also are working with local and regional partners to look to the future and long term about economic resilience as a whole for local businesses and the entire community in the region. So we hope to create an economic recovery plan that will support and strengthen the local community and economy to recover and maybe even grow from COVID-19 impacts. And so as we're talking about how businesses might be able to come back better, because during this downtime when your business is closed, we've been encouraging businesses to think about what they can be doing for their business. Do you have a logo? Let's get you a better logo, or let's make sure that it's digitized, or let's connect you with somebody that can create one from scratch. Do you have a website? You do? Okay. Do you like it? Is it doing everything you want, or are there some things that can be fixed on it? Is there something that's been bugging you about your social media or online presence, for months, and you just haven't had time to address that? Let's talk about that now. Have you been struggling with your QuickBooks software? Here are some webinars that you can be taking to kind of get yourself up to speed so that when business starts back up in earnest for you, you're ready to go. So these are some things we're offering to businesses to help them come back better. And then as an economy and a whole community, we want to look at ways that we can all come back better from this situation. There's so many challenges that we are facing as a community, as individuals, as businesses because of COVID-19. But you know what? There's also some opportunities. And one of those opportunities is taking this time to really look at everything as a whole and try to find ways to fix things that have been needing to be fixed, or to create the relationships and the partnerships that need to be there for things to move to the next stage in certain areas, for us to look at long-term goals for our community and our economy, and see if we can try to maybe lay out a framework or a plan of how to get there in the next few years. And on top of all that, emergencies and disasters like this, they actually do open up opportunities statewide and nationwide that aren't normally there, whether that's through FEMA funding that becomes available, or other funds and grants that are offered, or other assistance that is there, or other partnerships that haven't normally been as strong as they are now. So there are ways that we can actually work together in a larger scale to make some big things happen here.
Okay, well, and again, to anybody listening, first off, I'll remind folks, if you're joining us late, we're visiting with Cathy Renfeldt, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, and this show, as all of our talk shows have been recently, will be archived at youtube.com/Cordova TV. I was thinking, too, if a business owner is in the early stages of just thinking about how to get open and really enjoying hearing about this information for the longer term on down the future, but just doesn't have the mental capacity to think about it, you don't have to remember it all, because it's all part of the Chamber website. It's all stuff that the people at the Chamber know. Again, this show can be an asset for people who would like to hear you go over it again. So, just for anybody who thinks it's a little too much to process right now, don't worry, because the information is not going anywhere. This is a 5-phase process or 5-component process that we're talking about with Cathy here. We talked about the rethink portion, the rebuild portion, the reopening portion, the recover portion, and strategies for all of those. Now, what about resources? That's the kind of the cap on it here.
So that is all going to be on our website at cordovachamber.com/COVID-19. And then a lot of these resources are also at cordovachamber.com/back-better. So if you go to cordovachamber.com and just scroll all the way to the bottom, you should see both of those items right down there with a picture that you can click on to get to. And whether it's you just want to see what a business is doing and what you need to do to participate with that business, that would be on the COVID biz list. And we're also going to be probably making a resource for businesses to share their safety and mitigation plans, so that before you go into a business, you can know exactly what's expected and what's happening there. There's relief resources if you're looking for information on maybe getting some support from grants or loans or deferment to keep your business running. And then we're also going to be adding some information there for folks that need help with mental health things or with connecting with other people in the community. We already have our online events calendar, which we are working hard to keep up to date as well. We're including all kinds of virtual events to that, which is exciting. And if you're out there and you're creating a virtual event, if you're creating a sing along that's going to be a YouTube Live or a Zoom conference or something like that, let us know. Give us the details. We'll put it on there. And if you're looking for something to do, check out that online community calendar and see what pops up there. We also share a lot of this information through our Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/Cordova Chamber, and on our Instagram, which is at Cordova_Alaska. And we have an email list as well. So if you're interested in signing up for our email list, you can do so right from our Facebook page or right from our homepage of our website. If you scroll past the Comeback Better and COVID-19 update, right below that is how you can subscribe to the mailing list. So there's lots of resources out there that we have that we're ready and willing to share with you. You can call us at 7260. And we can help connect you with whatever you need. Yeah. And we're also working with the incident management team. I'm hoping that we can put together some kind of a business and economic task force to try to work cooperatively with more entities on these as we move forward.
Well, I have to say again, Cathy, the Chamber has just thrived under your leadership and whoever it is that's part of it there with you. I mean, I remember the years that I was president of the Chamber for a few years at a time when it was really struggling. We were in between executive directors, and I mean, we'd go to our board meetings and just kind of sometimes wonder why we even existed. And what has come now under your leadership, these web assets and all of the outreach, between what you're doing and what your team is doing, it's just remarkable. I mean, hearing about, being able to talk to you about all of these questions that you can answer and the guidance that you can offer to somebody who's maybe a business owner right now and is just terrified, is just thinking the world has changed and it's over. I have no place in this new normal or this different economy or whatever. And, you're here saying, no, that's not true. And here's a bazillion reasons, why it isn't. And we're ready to talk to you about it and help you come up with a strategy. I mean, that builds a whole lot of confidence. And I'm really glad you and I had a chance to chat some. Anything else as we kind of wrap it up here?
Not really. I just, I want to acknowledge my team. I've got Laurel and Jessica in my office that are working hard. And these projects, a lot of these projects, they were, taking the lead on as I was, focused on public information officer duties. And so they've been, a huge asset to this community as well. So big kudos to them. And also some of my board members have really stepped up, so that I could help in the capacity as PIO. So now that that's done, I'm really glad to be able to focus full time on chamber duties and to put someone behind the helm again, so that my staff and my board can really, so that we can make these big steps forward. And I just encourage businesses again. If you're not a member, don't let that stop you from calling the chamber. We are not reserving our resources for our members only right now. We think that it's going to be beneficial to all of our members that we reach out and help any business who needs help right now. Because if we lose even one business in a town this size, that has a huge impact on the economy, on the quality of life, on how everyone feels, and that's going to trickle down and affect every single business and every single person. So we think it's really important, and we hope that all of our members will understand and support that decision. And for our members out there who have been supporting us and paying your dues and and all that. Just thank you so much, because of you, and because of the city and their support and all of our sponsors, that we're able to do this work. So thanks so much.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Cathy. Great conversation. That was something, wasn't it? What an asset the Cordova Chamber of Commerce is, and everybody on that team. You know, as we wrap up here, and not to be overly self-indulgent, I didn't want to jump in with this while Cathy Renfeldt was talking about the marketing tools that the Chamber has, which are all very solid, and everybody should do them. I also want to remind you that we're here for you, too. You know, if you... any of our existing clients or anybody that would like to use radio, you know, something that's always been very important to us, in addition to doing everything that we can to have a good product that people enjoy listening to, is always to stay affordable. And we actually haven't had a rate increase since the Eagle went on in 1997. We've held it and always tried to make cuts in other places and fiddle with other numbers to keep the ads less expensive for our local advertisers. So we've been, like I said, at the same structure ever since 97. So that's 23 years? Can I still do math? I don't know. Anyway, so again, we want to be an affordable option. We want to be, you know, anybody that advertises with us, we want to be a good partner with you in finding something that works. Robbie has added some fascinating new components with being able to make videos for you as part of some of our ad packages that we offer. So if you want us to work for you, to be part of your recovery and part of your marketing and part of your outreach, we definitely want to hear from you. So get in touch with us, and we will do what it takes to make it work for you. And again, I can't say enough how grateful I am to all of the businesses that have continued to stay with us and let us help get the word out. Because that's how we keep our lights on, obviously, and it's also how we're able to spread the word about, you know, if a business has changed how it's doing things. AC's an example of that. The sponsor of this program, Cordova Wireless, when they changed how they were doing business, they let us know about it. I know Cordova Gear came back on, and we're going to have a lot of fun shooting a video for them, you know, once that kind of becomes okay again. There are some examples of Robbie's videos that he's made. They're back from Christmas time, but if you want to see examples of what he does, and also Brian Wildrick's music video is on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cordova TV. So we have assets we want to put to work for you as well, and if you want to know more about them, just get in touch with us. One more reminder about our hope here at the radio stations that as businesses reopen, that the business owners and operators, as well as the customers, know what the rules are. Cathy kept using that word nimble. I like that. The businesses that are the most nimble as rules change and so forth will be the ones to succeed. I think that also applies to a good approach to this learning curve that Cathy mentioned that we're going to have to go through. Doing business for a while is going to feel a little bit different initially. But we'd really like to encourage folks to not look at that. You know, if you go in and you have an experience that involves some things that you weren't expecting in terms of a masking rule, in terms of maybe needing to take curbside delivery instead of going in or whatever. You know, if we can all just take a breath and kind of go, okay, this is not awesome, but I understand, and I'll get used to it, and we'll all evolve, and we'll all work together, businesses and customers, to not butt heads and not get in each other's faces and not do this absolutely stupid stuff that you see happening. And so I saw it happen again on one of these Fairbanks Facebook groups that I follow, where somebody came on with a post. I mean, it's such a dumb thing to say that I really wonder if they don't just post it on purpose to stir things up and create a dumpster fire. But somebody came on there and said, just so everybody knows, Michael's Craft Store has a rule now that everybody has to wear a mask, and they're not providing them for anybody. And all I hear when I see someone say like that is, you know, you're supposed to wear pants when you go to a business too. If you decide to go to Michael's Craft Store or any other business, any local business here, and you go without your pants, and they say, you can't come in because you're not wearing pants, and we have a rule you have to have pants on. Is the store supposed to provide you pants? Or are you supposed to take some personal responsibility to get some pants before you go in to, you know, a business that has a rule about pants? It's the same thing with masks, really. Yes, it's new, it's different, but there are ways to get them, sometimes at no charge, to be able to get the masks that are required in order to go into indoor public spaces. So to not know that and go somewhere and be told by a proprietor, I'm sorry, we can't let you in without a mask, if you go off on them, that's just, you know, you not being a value member of the community. If, on the other hand, you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll try to get one and come back, or, you know, whatever your decision is just the civility is what's going to help us to be a cut above the rest. And part of that, as business is reopening, is understanding that there's going to be a learning curve for the business owners and for the customers. But again, if customers come in and try and push for special treatment or make the business owners feel guilty for following the rules, that's going to be disheartening for business owners, and they're not, you know, I mean, they might just shut down, or you might not be allowed to come in there. I don't know what the result will be, but it's going to be bad. It's not going to turn out well. And, of course, business owners need to not be wagging their fingers at people and be rude, but usually the business owners understand that. It's the customer is always right principle tends to be the thing that creates friction. I would imagine most of our people running the business are if somebody's, say, not coming in with a mask, that they're going to be polite about it. I mean, that's what I've always seen working with our businesses. At the same time, though, you know, another thing that a customer can do is help a business owner who might be goofing up some aspect of following the plan. You know, if you, for example, if a restaurant allows you to come in without a reservation, or, you know, if you somehow are encouraged to be a walk-in at a local restaurant, they can get in serious, serious trouble if they do that. Restaurants under Phase 1 have to take people by reservation. You can't just walk in. You've got to call them in advance and let them know you're coming. And even in Phase 2, which again we're not yet, but I was looking at some of the Phase 2 rules, and even if a restaurant allows walk-ins under Phase 2, they still have to log you. They have to keep a log of names of who came in, because if contact tracing needs to be done, then the restaurant has a list of everybody. And it's not just restaurants, it's others too. So logging is going to be a thing in the near future. But right now, the best way for restaurants and salons especially to screen is the fact that they're supposed to be by reservation only. And again, if I was a restaurant owner, I'm sorry to go over this again, but you know, if I were any of you that have restaurants that are going to maybe start doing some dine-in, when the person calls to make the reservation or emails or whatever system you do, I would say, all right, how many in your party? Oh, there's 3 of you? Okay. Are you all from the same household? Because if you ask the questions and somebody just lies to you as a business owner, if a customer just flat out lies and they create a problem, that customer, according to the law, is committing reckless endangerment. And that customer who lies to the reservation taker could be fined $25,000 and do a year in jail. That's how serious the state has gotten about these rules. A business owner who knowingly operates outside of the rules could face penalties pushing up around $500,000 if nobody dies, and if a business is found to be negligent in following the rules and a death results from that negligence, I'm pretty sure it's $2.5 million, up to $2.5 million worth of fine, and again jail time. It's just stuff that I wouldn't want to deal with if I was in business. So I'm all about the rules. That's just how I like to operate. I sure don't want to see that, that kind of thing happen. I don't think it will, but, you don't even want to entertain the possibility, I don't think. It's not worth it. So if we all work together as customers and businesses to be on the same page, cut each other slack, recognize everybody's trying, don't try and be pushy with each other, don't try and force the businesses to do stuff they're not supposed to. Businesses, don't be tempted to allow shenanigans that shouldn't be going on. If everybody just stays on the same sheet and keeps the equilibrium, no reason to think that we can't succeed. Maybe even way better than a lot of other places in the state. And we have a reputation for doing things better than a lot of other places in the state in more than one way. So we want to wish everybody the very best. We're excited, and we want to thank you for joining us for the program here today. The Town Meeting Show, brought to you by Cordova Wireless Communications. And if you missed any of it, again, it was a great conversation with Cathy Renfeldt. You can refer back to it on our YouTube channel anytime. If it was tough to process everything that she said and you want to listen to it again, I'm so proud of Robbie for coming up with that idea to create that channel so we'd have someplace to stash all this stuff. You know me, I've been thinking about ways to do it for years and just never had a good idea. And he said, hey, YouTube. So youtube.com/Cordova TV if you would like to hear this program or share it with somebody who you think might enjoy hearing it. Thank you again, Cordova Wireless Communications. Thanks to everybody. Good luck to the businesses that are taking a shot at it today. And thanks to all of the customers who are going to, we know, be civil and polite. And everybody will work together and make this work. We'll get the rest of your missed programming in, everything we had to preempt in the 10 a.m. hour. That's coming up next on KLAM. Have a great weekend.